Welcome along to my preview of La Liga football. Every weekend now we do on my YouTube channel Analista de la Liga with me, Terry Gibson, and do a little look ahead to the weekend's action in Spain. What games I'm working on, where I'm going out to work, and this week I'm off heading out to Madrid on Friday. So today it's the reason I'm going out on the Friday is because it's Real Madrid against Girona on Friday night. So it's an opportunity for La Liga to give Real Madrid an extra day's rest before their second leg against Bayern Munich. So I'm heading out for that one. Real Madrid have lost 2 games on the trot. One of those, of course, against Bayern Munich. Lost last week against Mallorca. Been a poor week for Real Madrid. Surprisingly, because prior to that, they've been on a really good run of form. Some big wins against Atletico Madrid. A couple of wins against Manchester City. I didn't see the catastrophe last week coming when they lost to Mallorca away from home. And yet, Bayern Munich is a tough fixture. They're still in the tie. It could have been worse. They still have the players that can turn around that game in the second leg. So they're playing on Friday night, and that's against Girona, a team that are having a fantastic second half of the season. It was the first half of the season where I imagined at quite a few stages that Michel was going to lose his job. They stayed with him. I'm glad they stayed with him. I was proved wrong. I actually thought it needed a change. But they've really drastically improved in the second half of the season. So with the players that they have, the likes of Witsel and Thomas Lemar, Van Aert, who's the centre forward, I think he's going to be missing this game. He's out injured. Sigankov is a very good player. They've got good players, Girona, and they do play a nice style of football at the moment. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They beat Villarreal on Monday night. They've eased their relegation issues to the extent they're now looking at upwards and maybe have an outside chance of a European spot. So with the style of football that Girona play, if Real Madrid are not organised, if they're not coached, if they're not motivated, this is going to be a tough fixture. This reminds me kind of the Girona play a similar style of football to Celta Vigo. Celta Vigo went to the Bernabeu, believed in what they did, and that's playing out the back, into midfield, playing between the lines, playing possession football, and Celta got the win at the Bernabeu. So I think that Real Madrid have to really attack this game fully motivated, because to have any chance of chasing back that gap, the 7-point deficit to Barcelona, which was caused primarily because they lost last week at Mallorca, and Barcelona were able to win away from home at Atletico Madrid. So it's the motivation is there for Real Madrid. They can't afford to think about the game against Bayern Munich. They have to win this one. They can't afford to drop points. If they do, and it gets worse than a 7-point gap this week, La Liga campaign is over for Real Madrid in terms of winning it. So I'm going to go for the Real Madrid to win. I think Girona will make it difficult, but I have to back Real Madrid at home. Saturday we start with Real Sociedad against Alaves. Pellegrino Matarazzo has transformed this team. They got a win last week against Levante 2-0. It's been a little bit hot and cold since they got to the Copa del Rey final, which is next weekend against Atletico Madrid. But I think in this one they'll have too much for a team that's still in a relegation battle. Alaves are just 3 points above the drop zone. Kiko Sanchez Flores has gone in. He's having an impact. They've always been hard to beat this season. And this will be a tricky game for Real Sociedad, but I do expect the home victory. Alaves are good at home. That's where they get their points. I do believe they'll stay up, but they do suffer away from home. So, yeah, that's why I'm going for the Real Sociedad win. Elche then play Valencia, which is arguably the biggest game of the weekend. Elche dropped into the bottom 3 last week after the win for Mallorca. It's an Elche team that's only won 1 game since the Christmas break. They get all their points at home. They've got the worst away record in the Liga. They haven't won a game. They've only picked up 4 points away. They pick up their points at home. Valencia is similar. They don't pick up many points away from home. Hence the reason I'm going to go for an Elche win, which leaves Valencia in a whole lot of trouble. Elche get the win, that would take them to 32 points. Valencia on 35. Sevilla on 31. It's really close down the bottom. Valencia are not out of trouble yet. Lost at home last week to Celta Vigo 3-2. So there's still problems for Valencia, and I think those problems will continue after this match. So I'm going to back Elche to get the home win. Barcelona against Espanyol on Saturday early evening. It's tough to go against Barcelona, of course, and it's even tougher when you look at Espanyol. I haven't won a game since Christmas. But they've become harder to beat again, Espanyol. They will be dogged and determined in this Catalan Barcelona derby. But Barcelona have to, they're looking at the deficit now against Atletico Madrid. They're 2-0 down, second leg next week. If they get knocked out of that, everything rides on La Liga. So I expect Barcelona to be really motivated for this one. And I can't see anything other than 3 points. Some injury issues, of course, for Barcelona. Pedri being the latest to pick up an injury. Hamstring coming off against Atletico Madrid at half-time. And there'll be 2 or 3 rotations from Hansi Flick. Doesn't have a massive squad. There are youngsters knocking around the bench that we might see. But I don't think he can take the risk of making too many changes just to save them for the second leg against Atletico Madrid. And Atletico Madrid do play after Barcelona on Saturday. The Saturday night game is Sevilla against Atletico. Atletico, whose B team, will play in that one. But it will include the likes of Alexander Sorof, Alex Baena, Obed Vargas. There's a number of players that will be playing in that game. And you think, oh, well, they could have been in the starting 11. They do have pretty much 2 strong teams, Atletico Madrid. How motivated those players will be, I think, yes, they will. They might be cheesed off they're not playing in the Champions League game against Barcelona. But I still take Atletico to get the win against Sevilla. Luis Garcia Plaza took over the job. His first game, they lost away from home at bottom of the table, Oviedo. They had a player sent off in the first half. There were protests when the players arrived back in Sevilla from Oviedo. Supporters were waiting for them in the dead of night to give them some stick and abuse. Supporters have been at the training ground. They've been at the ground this week. They've been protesting all over the place. And it can be a hostile environment, intense environment to play football in. If you're playing well and you're winning games, Sevilla, it's a fantastic place to be a footballer. But if you're not winning games and you're in a relegation battle and the supporters want the owners of the club to clear off, it's hostile. And I think that goes against Sevilla at the moment. The supporters normally support the team during the game until something goes wrong. And yeah, this is going to be a tough game. So I'm going to go for an Atletico win, which leaves Sevilla. Bearing in mind I'm tipping Elche to win. I won't be surprised we see this week Sevilla in the bottom 3. With just 7 games to go. So it's significant stuff. Sunday we go to Osasuna against Betis. Start with Osasuna against Betis. Osasuna good at home. Betis have a 6 without winning La Liga now. They've got a good draw against Braga away from home in the Europa League. So that holds them in good stead. They'll be thinking about the second leg of that one as well. But at the same time, they've allowed the gap between them and teams below them to close. And the reason it's a problem, Betis are 5th. It may well be that Spain have 5 teams from La Liga in the Champions League next season. And this was a real aim of Betis. The fact they're stumbling now in La Liga has allowed Celta to close the gap. Real Sociedad, Getafe. There's a lot of pressure on this game for Betis. And Osasuna are good at home. I say Betis, they draw too many games. I can see this one being a draw as well. So I think this will be a draw between Osasuna and Betis. Then we continue on Sunday with Mallorca against Rayo Vallecano. Mallorca had that game against Real Madrid. Then they had 3 or 4 winnable games, 2 or 3 of them at home. This is another one of those. Rayo are on the fringes of the relegation issues. Conference League football at the moment is complicated their season. They don't score many goals. Mallorca are flying after that win last week. Mirici with his 19th goal of the season, just 4 behind Kylian Mbappe. He'll fancy his chances of scoring against Rayo Vallecano in this one. I'm going to go for the home win. Martin Di Michelis, recently appointed, has turned things around at Mallorca. And I'm quite confident in this one. A home win for Mallorca against Rayo Vallecano. Celta against Oviedo. Celta really, it's still involved in Europe now. Playing Freiburg midweek. Then they play Oviedo, a bottom team at home. And they'll know the scoreline from the Betis game. Celta will really believe now they've got a chance. They're a point behind Betis. They've got a chance of a 5th place finish and the Champions League spot, being an astonishing achievement for Celta Vigo. Claudio Herrera, since he's taken over the club, it's been outstanding. Young players coming through. They play a lovely style of football. The stadium's almost finished now, been refurbished. It looks the part. Celta Vigo are a club going in the right direction. Can that direction be in the Champions League next season? It's very, very possible. So I'm going to go for Celta to get the win over Oviedo, who have been better. But they're 7 points adrift. They got the win last week against Sevilla. There's too much work to do for Oviedo. They'll be better at home for the rest of the season than away, so I'm going to go for a Celta victory. Athletic Club against Villarreal. So Villarreal, they're flying. They lost last week against Girona away from home. They'll want to improve on that. They're currently third. They will be more motivated to finish third than Atletico Madrid. But this is the Athletic Club away from home, and Athletic are stumbling. I want to see a good finish from Athletic Club to this reign of Ernesto Valverde's third spell as manager of the club. Announced he's going to be departing at the end of the season. They do have an outside chance. Well, they're in the fight for both the Europa League, European Conference League. Champions League's too far away from them this season. They didn't perform particularly well in that competition this season either. So it needs a big finish from Athletic Club. And I think they get it in this one. I think they start the last 8 games of the season. I'm going to give them the home win over Villarreal. I think that, they'll be motivated from now to the end of the season to send off Ernesto Valverde in style. So that's the late Sunday game. And Monday we have an interesting game. Levante, 5 adrift of relegation. Shown signs, particularly in their own stadium, that they've got a chance of staying up. 5 adrift, it's 8 games to go. It's doable. They need to beat Getafe. Getafe are flying. It doesn't seem 5 minutes ago I was thinking that they're going to get relegated. Second half of the season they've been incredible. 2 defeats in the last 10, and that's been the 2 games where they've been down to 10 men, Sevilla and Atletico Madrid. Other than that, I mean, that when the transfer window was open, they brought in 3 or 4 players. They brought in 2 strikers. That's the reason I tipped them to get relegated. They couldn't score a goal. They're not prolific now when you look at their goals total for the season. But recently, the signing of Luis Vasquez, Martin Satriano, both scored last week, and they've just transformed this team. So it's now, I mean, as I say, 5 minutes ago I was talking about Getafe, in my opinion, were one of the favourites to get relegated. Now that we're talking about a European spot for next season, not sure if they want that. They don't have a big squad. A lot of the players are on loan. It means a lot of work for them to do in the summer to deal with European football and La Liga. But you try telling the players that we're not going to be in Europe, can't be in Europe next season. We haven't got enough players to deal with that. And I don't know if the club have got the infrastructure to bring those players in again to compete in La Liga. It's all about survival every year for a team like Getafe. They've had their moments in European football, but they're in there with a chance. So that keeps everything. Everything's on the ball in La Liga this week. Yes, we had the big games in the Champions League and some Betis and Celta, Rayo playing in Europe as well. Massive game between Barcelona and Atletico Madrid. Went against Barcelona. Fantastic victory for Atletico. I don't write Barcelona off in the second leg of that one, but Atleti are big favourites. Real Madrid have got it all to do away from home against Bayern Munich, but that game could have been any scoreline. How it was 2-1, I don't know, to Bayern Munich. I think probably in reflection a 5-3 victory for Bayern would have been a fair reflection on the game. So, as I say, the games are coming thick and fast. Exciting period of the season. Copa del Rey final next week, so there's no La Liga action next weekend. But then we have straight away start the midweek round, and then it's game after game after game until the end of the season. As I say, as a title race, just top 4 is pretty done, but there's a race to finish 5th, race for the European spots. 7 or 8 teams still involved in the relegation battle. I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking I don't see one team in La Liga that hasn't got something to play for. So, yeah, I'm sure that will change in the next few weeks, the next couple of weeks. But at the moment, everyone's got something to play for. So it's an exciting period of the season. Really looking forward to this weekend. I hope you are too. And I hope you enjoy these little previews. Useful. Catch you soon.